Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am hard to kill. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by Pocket Jack Comics, who have books like Palace of the Golden Princess and Wet Willie. And you can find their books at pocketjackcomics.com. And Preston does have a Kickstarter. So if you type in Palace of the Golden Princess on Kickstarter, you will be directed to you in that fashion. But enough about that, because I have with me comic creator Shaun Keenan. So welcome back to the show.
Okay, man. It's been a while. I was saying off air. It's been a while since we've caught up, but yeah, super excited to be here.
Yeah, you got a lot going on. Obviously, you right now have Fractured Shards funding on Kickstarter. I believe it's Volume 4 is the new one, but Volumes 1 through 3 are available. I think right. If I'm wrong, correct me. Right?
No, that's right. So we've done this volume 4 of the series, which we're super proud to say was nominated for a Ringo Award a couple of years ago. So got beaten out for best series by Something Is Killing the Children, but considering how good that book is, it was nice just to be nominated alongside them. So 4 volumes are all available on the current Kickstarter, and then we also did a spin-off within the same universe, which was called Aquila, and again, that's available on the current Kickstarter as well.
So let's get into it a little bit, because obviously when you have 4 volumes, I want to kind of catch everybody up before we dive into some of this stuff and what's going on with the story. But what is the basic concept of Fractured Shards? Because it's an interesting one.
Yeah, so we call it a cyberpunk detective noir series. So it follows Sebastian Vetro, who is a detective. The universe is set within what we call the districts and the lights, so the slums and the affluent area. Sebastian Vetro solves crimes in both of these using these things that we called shards or fractured shards. So he's almost kind of like a medium, where it gets glimpses into these really horrific crimes. It's very much an adult graphic novel, so not suitable for kids, but super violent. It's done by Riccardo, artworks done by Riccardo Ficini, who's is a beautiful artist. Colors by Kevin Anthony de Castro, and co-created with Dan Fugel, who a lot of people will know as Agron out of Spartacus, or EJ Demira off Days of Our Lives at the moment.
Yeah, so let's talk about this a little bit, because I think this is interesting, right? Because obviously we have a very interesting story that's going on here, where he is in between kind of both worlds. He's law enforcement, obviously. And so he's kind of dealing with this thing, and he has this power. And that's what makes this so interesting, right? Because he's kind of a detective, but he can, as you stated, get those shards. And so what is this like? Because he's dealing with the, I guess, powerful world and the inequities in this powerful world and the slums and traveling between them. And that's what makes it so fascinating, is that there's so much stuff going on, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, so I've always loved the idea of flawed characters. I think that's something that's always intrigued me in movies, in books I read, and that type of stuff. So Sebastian is very much a flawed character. So although he comes from the affluent side, I feel like he's trying to prove a point to not only his dad but himself. And that's why he does so much crime within the district and everything like that. So he doesn't really explain or tell people that he's got this ability. So he's a very good cop, and people think that he's a very good cop, but he doesn't really let anyone know that he's kind of like, this is how he's actually able to solve these crimes. And then as the series progresses, you kind of get a feeling and understanding of why he is the way he is. So, he takes medication for for headaches and these type of things, which is kind of like a byproduct of using his ability or power. You learn a little bit more around his family dynamics between himself, his sister Evie, and his other co-workers, and then also this latest volume. The reason why I love it so much, it really delves into mental illness and those type of ideas, and it's almost like the first three volumes. This volume is kind of questioning whether everything happened in those three volumes, or is it all in his head, or is it like, so it's very interesting, I think.
Let's get a little bit into this, because obviously he has this power ability, whatever we're going to call it, but obviously there's side effects, and he's also being exposed to some pretty horrific, for lack of a better word, fucked up shit. I mean, I don't know how to explain it any other way. And so any cop, I think, if you're a homicide detective, you're exposed to some crazy shit just in the real world, for lack of a better word here. Let alone obviously in this world, he's dealing with that, and then he's got this power, but he wants to be a good cop, and he has this ability, and I would imagine that it could amplify. And so what is this like? Because that's what really gets this story interesting, at least for me, is that we're now having a cop who's relatively solving crimes, but he's also heavily exposed to a lot of things that are not great, and it's kind of a dirty job, for lack of a better word, on steroids. And that's what's so interesting. But yes.
Yeah, so I think the interesting part is, like, I feel like everyone has a breaking point. And when you're exposed, as you were mentioning, to such horrific crimes for like such a long time, there becomes a time where you're like, do I cross that good guy line for the betterment of everyone else? So, what I'm doing is it not ethically correct, but it's morally correct in regards to, like, I'm going to kill this guy for what this guy has done to stop him from doing it again. It's like that Batman story all the time, saying, well, Batman doesn't kill the Joker, but is he partly responsible because he knows that the Joker is always going to escape, and then he's got more victims. So, like, it's that conundrum in regards to, is he doing the right thing type of thing. So, these crimes are brutal. Like, the first 5 pages of the first volume, you see that's the first villain, or whatever you want to, or suspect in the series, is leading a young child away, so you can alludes to what happens there and everything. So Sebastian's just like, man, I want to organize and execute order, kind of like your Judge Dredd style, and they're like, no, bring him in. And he's like, this guy pulled a gun on me, and I blew him away. And it's like, hang on a sec, the guy didn't pull a gun on him, type of thing. So it's that morally gray area type of thing. So I think, especially in this day and age, I think it's such a great story and area to delve into, because I think sometimes people see the world as black and white, and there is so much gray, so much gray.
Yeah.
And this story really lives in that gray area.
Let me ask this, because I mean, look, I love Superman, right? It's hard to hate Superman, right? But Superman's like the goody two shoes, and he doesn't kill, and he's always fighting for justice the American way and apple pie, right? That's Superman for you. But like, there's a point where it's like, you want to get justice sometimes, and maybe you don't want to do it the lawful way. I mean, like, it's because I feel like we're at the stage, right, in storytelling, where it's like, we've done Superman, we've done, the DC and Marvel superhero ways, where they catch the bad guy, they don't kill him, they bring him to justice, and then we go there. But now I feel like in comics and in stories, it's like, no, this is a story about revenge. This is a story about where we got actual practical means to ends, meaning that if we catch a bad guy and we kill him, there's one less bad guy in the world. And like I feel like there has to be real consequences. It's why manga is very popular right now, because there's real consequences. First thing, that we kill Superman off in DC, 6 issues, he's back. There's no consequence. Like, so like I don't know how you feel about that, but like there's consequences in this book. And that's
Yeah,
in
100%. And I think this is the difference between comics that are aimed more towards kids, and now there's real uptick in adult graphic novel storytelling type of thing. So, when you're selling Batman, you're trying to entice a 9 or 10-year-old. You're not really wanting to teach them that, even if this person's done something bad, you should kill them so that they don't do anything bad in the future. So I totally get, why Superman and Batman and all them don't do that stuff. But as you just touched on, you get a little bit older, you get a little bit more cynical, I guess. You see the world for what it's like. And I want to tell a story with with what I would want to read now. And this story definitely does that. It's like, hey, I am a cop. I am supposed to be the good guy, but what I'm doing, he genuinely believes he's doing what he's doing for the right reasons. Very much like Punisher. He's like, well, come on, man. These guys are drug dealers, kid traffickers, all this type of stuff. What am I going to do? I'm going to send them to court, feed them, in prison and all that, and then they eventually get off and they're back out doing exactly what they were doing before. No, that's not going to happen in this type of universe. So,
did you also feel, and I don't know, which and feel free, which I don't know it off the top of my head, when did you start this story? Like how many years ago?
wow, good question.
I mean, first published is. You'll understand why I'm asking the question in a second. But
yeah, I want to say 2020. So we're all locked up during COVID. I was launching another one of my series, and I was literally doing a live chat with Dan Furigal at the time. I was doing a YouTube show and trying to bump up my numbers, and I said, "Oh, can you come on for a spot?" And someone in the chat literally put a comment and said, "Oh, Dan, would you ever think about doing a graphic novel?" And he was like, "Oh, I've kind of got this cool idea for a story." And Stephen and I were sitting in there chatting, and I was like, this kind of sounds kind of cool. And literally the stream ended, and I said, "Hey, Dan, before you go, would you literally be interested in doing that story? Like, Stephen is interested. I'm 100% interested. I understand you've never done a comic or graphic novel before, but we can lead you in that space, and we'll kind of leverage your audience on getting this out there." And that's how it all started, type of thing. So
because the reason why I bring this up is that there are stories that start out, in year one, and they're much more friendly, and they're aimed at a 12-year-old, and then they go on for 10 years, and by the end of year 9 and 10, or even going into year 5, they become darker, and they have to, because what realized this happened with Ruby, is that it got real dark in volume 3, volume 4, volume 5, and even when before it ended in volume 9, for a lot of reasons, but we don't have to go into that. We'll be here for hours about that. But it got darker because they realized that they're aimed at 13-year-olds that are now 16, and they're 17, or they're 18. And so, you can't be telling a chibi, cute little story when somebody's 18 and maintain them as a reader. And so, like, I mean, I don't know if that's this story per se, because I don't think it is. But if you were telling this story and you started out and you aimed it at 12-year-olds, and you're going for 10 years, by the time they're 22, if you want to maintain them as readers, you got to get it a little bit darker, if that makes sense. So, like, I feel like that's why I asked the question the way I ask it, is that do you feel that it has to evolve because your audience is now 5 years older? And a lot of shit has happened in the last 5 years in the world.
Yeah, this started off in a strip club, so it was never really aimed at a young audience. The very first scene was
But
in a
you
strip
know what I
club. So,
mean, right? You know what I mean,
yeah.
though, in which that I am not the same as I was 5 years ago. I was less cynical 5 years ago on the
Yes.
world, and I was, and I'm smarter than I was 5 years ago.
And
And
even what has happened in the world, like as much as you say, oh, yourself has changed, and that the world has changed. Like you look at what the world was like in 2019 before COVID hit, to what the world is at the moment. You know, you got stuff going on in the Middle East. You've got stuff going on the edge of Russia. You've got stuff going on in North Africa. Like
I mean,
it's
you got Israel, Gaza. I mean,
yeah,
you have social unrest in many ways in the United States. I mean, you have, coups going on in crazy countries in South
yeah.
America. I mean, it's not a peaceful world anymore.
No, even watching the news, like I'm very mindful. I've got two young girls, and I'm even mindful of like watching the news around them because, like, the other day, my daughter just happened to walk in, and she's like, "Oh, does that say a 4-year-old boy was killed?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, honey, like," and then you're like trying to explain to a 9-year-old something that really, they shouldn't have to kind of worry about it at that age, type of thing. But yeah, I'll 100% put my hand up and say that my storytelling, it always kind of reflects, one, what's going on in the world, but two, a lot of the times what's going on personally as well. I've been very open and honest that I've struggled with my mental health, and had a very lean couple of years in 2023 and 2024, and I'm much better now, and feel great. But this volume was written and was getting done very much during that period, and the book very much reflects like my own mental health space, what I thought about myself, what I thought about the world, and kind of from there. So I've always tried to tell what a story that interests me, and I feel will resonate with people. And I understand not everyone will like it, but that is the best way I feel that I can kind of create stories, is actually put a little bit of myself into that. So
And then obviously, I mean, there's no depth, there's no challenge to that because I've changed, the show changes, everything changes in the world. And I feel you about having rough years, and this year has just been brutal. But that's a different discussion for a different day. But I mean, anybody who's been through 2025, nobody's had a good year in 2025. And if you have, boy, do I want to be your friend. Um,
yeah. Yeah, Rogue, buy a lotto ticket. If you've had a good 2025, buy a lotto ticket or something. So, yeah, it is interesting though, because a lot of times you kind of like I always tell my girls, I've gone, sometimes people are rude, sometimes people are mean, but I've gone, before you have a go at them, or say anything, I said, just stop and think. You actually do you know what's going on in that person's life? Do you know what they're kind of going through? Sometimes someone might be doing it quite tough, and them being a little bit short with you is maybe not the be all and end all. So
I've said this before to people when I was working. I said that you do not want to catch me on a Monday when I get home. My Mondays were 13, 14-hour days, and I am not the person to speak to on a Monday. So if you shoot me a message and it's not a pleasant message on a Monday, you're going to get a response that's not going to be a pleasant one. On Tuesday, that response goes down from being at 80% hostile to being like 3% hostile. So
Yeah.
if you have a serious issue, don't bother me on a Monday. Because it was a 14-hour day and I get home and I'm dealing with a problem. And right before I eat my dinner at 7 o'clock at night, not a good time to bother me on a Monday, right? But
Yeah.
that's the point right there. But I do want to actually talk about Kickstarter stuff because that's also a complicated issue now too. And I mean, it is a brutal entity right now. I don't know who is doing well on Kickstarter. I think a lot of people are doing more Kickstarters because they're doing pretty bad on them, to be honest. And I've noticed people going from doing 4 Kickstarters a year to doing 6. And those 6, they're making the same amount of money, but they're doing an additional 33% of work. And so
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about Kickstarter, where that's at, but it's just a minefield is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like you talk about how things have changed over the last 5 years. I talk about crowdfunding and I talk about streaming. Like, they had, when Netflix came onto the market, they had almost eradicated like illegal downloading because everyone was like, oh, I can just jump onto Netflix and everything's there. But then Amazon Prime came out, then Paramount Plus came out, and then HBO Max came out, and then Disney Plus came out, and it's just gotten to a point. Hey, ESPN, UFC, like there's just so many more now that people like. This is ridiculous. Like I'm just going to go back to downloading and torrenting the shows that I like because it's just too expensive to support everything. And I feel like that's kind of happened a little bit to crowdfunding. There used to be Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and then you would have really, your GoFundMe for your donation style or charity style of crowdfunding. And then there was Possible that was fairly big as well. But now, just in the comic space, you've got Back a Kit, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, Crowdfund My Comic, Zoop.
I'm going to throw out a theory to you. And I made this theory when I ran my Kickstarter for this show, and I got shit for it, and people disagreed with my thesis on this. I feel in certain aspects it's pay to play right now on Kickstarter and in crowdfunding. And what is it? SWATs is the big one right now, where they've done like 200,000-300,000. I backed the campaign that was a trading card game called Oshi Push, and I like Oshi Push, and I made money on Oshi Push, because people want rare cards, and I got a bunch of them because I backed it at a good level. But like they ran a lot of ads, and I feel if you want to have a 60, 70, 100,000 campaign, you got to pay to play. And I don't know what SWATs is. I'm not going to go to SWATs or SWATs or CATs or whatever it is. I'm not going to say it's good or bad because I don't know, but it could be an average book. But they're running so much ads that everybody sees it, and then they cast a huge net, and then they get it. I mean, hopefully, you're not involved in that project, and hopefully I'm not bashing it. But the point remains the same. So I'm curious because I think that's also killing Kickstarter. I think it's killing it because it's not organic anymore. It's forced.
Well, yeah, you can definitely tell that Facebook and that have actually like changed their algorithm in regards to links. So if you and I can tell you 100%, if I post a photo of the Kickstarter, even if I have a link in the description, but if I post a photo and say, hey guys, I got my Kickstarter, here are some of the rewards, and I post a couple of photos, that will get 10 times more interaction than if I just post the Kickstarter link. So I can 100% say that if you just post the Kickstarter link, it just does not get the organic reach you were talking about. So you either need to pay to play. You need to pay for ads, pay for boost posts, all those type of things, unless you've got like other forms of ways of hitting your audience. So for me, I predominantly use Facebook, but I've got an email list. And for this project, I've actually been going back to my previous campaigns and providing updates on those, saying, hey, the new one's out, as well as reaching out to people individually to say, hey, I don't know if you've seen it, because a lot of people have come back to me saying, oh, you got 4 out. What happened to 3? And I was like, oh, you didn't see 3? And they're like, oh, no, we didn't see. And it's like, I did all of this stuff and they still didn't see it. So
I take a completely different approach where I don't really go on Facebook anymore. I'm almost exclusively on YouTube. So I just tag my videos, right? I hashtag this stuff. I pick good, things. I run through, tag filters and software for tag filters. And I said, fuck the whole algorithm on Facebook. I would rather go completely YouTube and bang out shorts and just bang out content after content after content and have an abundance and not even play on that, because I can build a better business on YouTube and I can control it and they're not going to torture me. And then I could use YouTube community / posts almost like a Twitter feed and be way more effective, way more effective. I've gained 250 subscribers off of posts alone last year. So like, why would I want to be on Facebook? I just don't see the point, because I want people to watch my content. And then Facebook takes that off in 90 days. So like it defeats the purpose. So I'm almost exclusive because I just don't see that. And then my videos are just up there forever. And they act as, and then it gets replicated and duplicated on Rumble. And then I want to duplicate it everywhere else. So I think
I think for me, there's a big learning point in that, in regards to, I've ran this current campaign that I've got is my 30th campaign. So I've ran quite a few Kickstarters, but I've noticed that the problem with having ran 30 Kickstarters is I'm so ingrained in what I do that I haven't kind of upgraded that. I haven't changed that. I haven't, so I'm like, oh, hang on a sec, I'm doing what I always do, but I'm getting less than I used to do. And that is because people like yourself are no longer on Facebook, or they don't use it as much. So, I need to be really mindful that I need to kind of keep expanding the way I try to reach people.
I've taken the position where I will continuously adapt. I've also taken the position where I have 1,900 videos on YouTube. So I don't really care what something does today. Now, it doesn't necessarily help you today, but it helps you in the long run. Because if all of a sudden we do an interview and then over the next 3 years it does 7,000 views, that helps you. But but what I figured out is that it's just a huge amount of content being developed. So like that's my whole theory is that like but like, and then I'll adapt elsewhere. But like it's just management of time. And I also do when I look at quarters, right? So I will go, a quarter for me is 13 weeks, but I drop it down to 12. And then in week 13, I actually look at the data. But unfortunately, you can't look at the data from quarter 1 till quarter 2. But then I adapt and I adapt and I adapt. And I've been doing that for years on YouTube. And this is how you evolve. And so it's crazy because YouTube provides you a lot of data. So I'm going to be looking at quarter 1 in 2026. And then I'm going to look at that in quarter 3. But you have to plan a quarter 1 and 2. And then you make the change in quarter 3 and 4 based on quarter 1.
And I think that's the good thing, as you were saying, about YouTube provides you so much data, where if you're going to do that with Facebook, you really need, again, pay to play there in that space to be able to get that data, type of thing from a business point of view.
It's crazy. It's crazy. YouTube tells you what days your viewers are watching. It tells you what time they're watching. It tells you, and I mean, you can pinpoint targets like nobody's business, and you can go deep. So if you have content coming out every day, you can train your audience to a degree. Or conversely, you can say on Wednesday they're watching at 6 in the morning, and on Tuesday they're watching at 9 a.m. in the morning, and on Wednesdays they're watching at 3:30 in the afternoon. And so you can legitly know and pinpoint when things are coming out, and it's crazy. And I mean, you could go deep. But you got to put the effort in. But like that's
Yeah.
the thing. And then you could also figure out demographics. You could figure out age groups. You could figure out, economic status. It's insane what you can get off of YouTube. It's awesome, and they don't take shit down like Facebook does. But again, I could give you the seminar on this because I do it and I love it and it's fascinating. But I don't want to do that because there's a lot more stuff I want to talk about. I know you got to get out of here in like 5 minutes. So obviously we covered a lot of stuff, but obviously there's a lot of rewards that I'm going to briefly mention, and that is the regular trade paperback for Volume 4. There's the variant. Their prices seem high, but that's Australian dollars. I want to make that crystal clear. It freaked me out the first time before I looked at it. I'm like, $75 for this? What the shit? Like, it's not $75. It's if you're in the United States, it's a little less. I think it's like 50, right? Give or take.
Even less, I think, because it's almost 40% off for Americans. So so $75, which gets you both covers and everything. It would be just under 50, I think. So
there's that. You could probably get all the graphic novels. You can get it all digital. You get prints. You could get some other cool experiences. You could get a 15-minute one-on-one with Dan. You get an hour with Dan. I think you get a sketch cover drawn. You could design your own cover. There's a lot of stuff that could be done here. I mean, pretty much it's the whole, gambit if you want it. I think there's probably an everything package, right? Or if there isn't one and you want it, you could probably ask. I'm sure it's everything, right?
Yeah, so we've got you've got all of the standard ones where you can just get the book and everything, but if you're that completist, the tier that's like about $500 that gets you all the different graphic novels, free sketches as well. But the one I love, I always love that get yourself drawn onto the cover. Like, we've got a couple of different series that we've done that with, where we've had people drawn onto the actual cover type of thing. So these two are people that we've drawn onto the cover of the 13th Labor with the main character and all that type of stuff. So that's got to be one of my favorite rewards to be able to offer people type of thing, because especially coming into Christmas, like a lot of people will do that as say like a Christmas present. So we had one guy do him and his family. He's a big wrestling fan. So we've got the main character, got him in a figure 4, and his children are behind him in the crowd, watching that. And I was like, such a cool concept for a cover, and it was something that I wouldn't have thought about. So that's the other cool thing with getting a random person saying, "Oh, can you draw this?" And it's like, yes, we can. So.
No, that's great. And then obviously, I mean, there's some other stuff too, and then there's a bunch of rewards. And then I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself, even though we didn't cover a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't want to ruin the story too much because there's a lot of shit in the story. Like I don't want to break this story down and beat it like a dead horse. Like, but obviously, I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. So where can people find the Kickstarter, back the Kickstarter, also pick up some other stuff, because you just don't have this. I mean, you have 30 campaigns. And there's a bunch of other stuff that you've done as well. So where can people find what you do? And then obviously you are in Australia. So, you have a side business in Australia that's a little outside of, it's still comics, but it's not Kickstarter books. Right?
Yeah, definitely. So I run a small comic and graphic novel publishing business in Australia called Comics the number 2 movies. So you can find me on socials under Comics the number 2 movies, on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Snapchat, on X, on all of those platforms. We've also got our website where you can have a look at all of our different range of comic books at www.comics2movies.com.au. And then our current Kickstarter is up at the moment. It's Fractured Shards. If you search that on Kickstarter, you'll be able to check that out. It's number 4. And then we've also got our next real big launch is going to be a very cool story called Ned Kelly Werewolf Hunter. So we're going to launch that in March, late February, early March of next year. And that's more news about that soon, but that's going to be a very cool project to do. And then we're relaunching and doing a remastered version of my very first series called the Extreme Champion Tournament. So I'm excited about that. So 2026, I feel, is going to be a really good creative year. But yeah, you can find me anywhere on socials, and as well as you can link in with me under Shaun Keenan on Facebook as well, personally, if you like to do that as well.
And then obviously the link is up above, down below, to the side, wherever it appears on your screen. I'm not exactly sure, to the Kickstarter, so it's in the description, everybody. And then as far as I'm concerned, obviously I am Pop Anime Comics on the Twitter/the Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube. Please subscribe. It means something. It makes my heart grow 2 sizes like the Grinch. So if you want me to be warm and fuzzy, subscribing on YouTube does help. And then furthermore, I might have already said it, but TikTok is Pop Anime Comics. I run a card show called Big Boy Card Collecting on YouTube, where I just open up cards and I have a good time. And it's a very low stakes show. We have a lot of fun on that show, and I pull some cool stuff a lot. So definitely, if you like cards and that stuff, that's great. And then finally, I run a little business called Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. Look for comics and collectibles. Come shop with us on eBay. And I do have stuff like this in my store. I have stuff like this in my store. I tend to sell stuff like this in my store. I sell cards like this in my store. And yes, I do sell expensive cards like this in my store. And these do not stick around for long. So if you're looking for rare cards or $4 cards, anywhere from $4 cards all the way up to $1,500 cards, I got you covered. And I have comics for $12 all the way up to like $400 also. So if you're looking for something, hit me up. If you don't see it in my store, shoot me a message. If I have it, I'll list it. If I don't have it, it might not exist. If it doesn't exist, I'll tell you. And if it does exist and I don't have it, I do know a lot of people who probably will have it, and I'm more than happy to hook you up and send you in the right direction so that you get the stuff you want, because I'm a collector just like everybody else is. So that's all my stuff. Pop Anime Comics. Just type that in. You'll find me. And if you can't find me, again, any of those socials will get you to where you need to go on my shit. So there you go right there. And I'm going to give you the final word before I let you get out of here.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to do something totally different. You talk about cards. My nephew plays the elite sport here in Australia called Australian Rules Football. And the other day, I was able to secure. He actually played his first game, even though he's the youngest kid in the league. I should say young man. I should say kid. But I was like, I'll end on the note saying here are his debutante cards. So we've got his normal debutante card, which is gold, and his platinum debutante card. And I was having a joke about him the other day, saying, I'm hoping this one is worth a bit of money in some time. And we saw it on eBay the other day. It was about $300 type of thing. So, but thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed talking to you as always, and hopefully it's not as long next time. So yeah.
And I don't think we could have ended any better, everybody. And that is a wrap.